Hey there. Hello and welcome to Challenge Rating Zero, the latest and greatest Dungeons & Dragons podcast to grace the internet airwaves. I am Sam, the Dungeon Master, and I am surrounded by my good friends and adventuring companions. You guys want to introduce yourselves?
Not particularly.
Okay, that was the voice of Michael Parker, who will call himself Michael, but we will call Parker. We are actually recording this in his store, Game Haven, located in lovely Overland in St. Louis, Missouri. Parker, say hi.
Hello.
Fantastic. Who else is here?
Hi, I'm Brian.
That's Brian.
That's what I said.
Yeah, that is what you said. I can confirm.
And who made that feminine giggle?
Not me.
That was
Are
me.
you sure it wasn't Barker?
No, yeah, I can't hit that that quite.
My voice is not that feminine.
It's really
can hit
not.
it.
I'm
I
pretty sure the
believe in
feminine
you.
giggle was me.
Yeah.
No,
there you go.
I don't think I can.
Hey, do you want to
hit
say
it.
your name?
Yeah, whose
Oh,
voice is not that
hi,
feminine?
I'm Beth.
Fantastic.
I can go past it and I can go under it, but I don't think I can quite
You
get
can't
it.
hit my range.
Yeah.
So once again, it's Sam, Parker, Brian, and Beth. We will be bringing you a epic tale of adventure using Dungeons and Dragons, because we've been playing Dungeons and Dragons between the four of us for many, many years. We are seasoned veterans of many, many campaigns. I think I did the math. We've got, 50 years of friendship cumulatively between us, I think. We've all been hanging out since high school.
I don't know. I don't do math.
Parker does not do math, which
See, I
makes
thought
the
you were gonna
Dungeons
go
and
with
Dragons super fun.
Yeah, delightful. I thought you were gonna go with how many years of experience we had playing D&D, not our friendship years.
Well, I mean, our familiarity with each other is an important part, but yeah, if we're talking years playing Dungeons and Dragons, me and Parker between us got 30 years.
Like
I got about 8.
Yeah.
That's about 45 total years.
Yeah.
That's the math on that.
Yeah, so nearly 50
Parker.
years of playing Dungeons and Dragons as well.
For your
So we could
benefit.
almost have played the
I wasn't
first
gonna add that.
edition.
I know
Yeah.
you weren't.
So we've been doing this for a while.
I've played first edition.
We Of course you have. That's actually a very good point, something good to bring up. So a lot of actual play Dungeons & Dragons podcasts these days are playing in the newest version of D&D, version 5.0, but we are curmudgeons, we are crotchety old folks, and we play with version 3.5. So any of you kids playing along at home, we are using an older system, but one that we feel like is more
Suited for our taste.
suited for our
I
tastes.
believe the phrase you're looking for is more betterer.
We don't want to start any
Your D&D
debates or
sucks.
flame wars.
Fires? I like fires.
But we prefer 3.5, which is the version we're going to be using for this adventure. So I don't know if this needs to be said, but I'm just going to say it. Dungeons & Dragons is a tabletop role-playing fantasy game where players have characters that they make up. Their stats, their strengths, their weaknesses, all the stuff they're good at and bad at, as well as all their possessions, are listed on character sheets, which contain all the information about that character. I, as the Dungeon Master, am going to set up a world, set up scenarios, set up people, places, things, animals, obstacles, and the players react to those things. They can pretty much do whatever they want. If you've ever played a role-playing game, like video game, like Zelda or Dragon Age or anything like that, you get a lot of decisions, but there are usually invisible walls. In Dungeons and Dragons, you can do literally whatever you want. If Brian's character Hector wants to say, I sit down and kill myself, he could. Wouldn't be a great story, wouldn't be the best way to go about that, but he could if he wanted to. That's one of the...
Sometimes suicide is the answer.
Sometimes, but that's one of the draws of this game, not specifically suicide, but the ability to do whatever you want. There is a fairly, I'll say, comprehensive rule set associated with this game. Others might say complex or eldritch.
It's too hard.
Some people think it's a little too hard. Luckily, we've been playing this for a long, long time, and we all know the rules very well. So, shush, audience,
Well,
hush,
you guys
hush,
know
listeners.
better
It's gonna be okay. You're in good
You know
hands.
the rules fine, Beth.
Yeah, I just don't think I have a innate, deep grasp of it, like, say, Parker, who knows what page the rules are on.
Parker likes to guess page numbers, and sometimes he's kind of close and pretends like he knew.
I'm getting better.
I would
But
also like
he's-
to say I'm a little offended that you didn't say Parker and Sam, because I
And
knew the rules
Sam.
just as good as fucking Parker
It's
does.
a fun game to
Yeah,
play.
but
It's a fun game to play.
but you, Sam, do not pretend to know the page numbers.
That's true. I don't try to add that level of mystique to it.
Yeah, I'm on to you, Parker.
Mysterious.
Enigmatic.
So that's kind of the basic foundations of Dungeons and Dragons. Again, tabletop role-playing game. I will be running this as the dungeon master. So this particular campaign is going to be taking place in a world of my own creation, a place called Miosha. It is a typical high fantasy setting.
Everyone's dead.
Lots of
See, I just realized this is the prologue, so this is where we're going through all of the minutia of Miosha. And
the Miosha
that's-
minutia.
that's
You
fun.
just wanted to
That's
say
very
that.
good.
didn't
I
you?
really wanted to so much.
and I'm glad you did. So yeah, this isn't Greyhawk or Faerun or Eberron or anything. This is an original IP. And
Ravenloft?
the
Is
basic.
it Ravenloft?
It is not
That is-
Ravenloft.
that
no.
is
It's not Dragonlance. It's none of those things. Copyright TM Wizards of the Coast. Yeah. So the
Is it
world.
Vampire the Masquerade?
No, it's not. It's not World of Darkness either. Cut it out.
Fatal?
You guys. Let's stop talking about what it isn't and talk about what it is. So, this game will be taking place in the magical land of Miosha, a land that I've made up. So, Miosha is a giant, sprawling island nation with a rich history of storytelling, of writers, of epic poems and plays, of artistry, of medical, technological advancement. Think Europe at the height of the Renaissance. Real leaps are being made in all sorts of fields. But then an evil wizard cursed all the world with a horrible, lasting curse that wiped instantly and across the entire world the ability of every mortal man, woman, and child to read and write. So he made everyone immediately illiterate. All across the world, all at the same time. And not only that, but no one can learn to read again or develop a new alphabet or any means of written communication. Now, this is kind of a weird, admittedly, theme for a campaign. It's definitely homebrew, which is slang terminology gamers like to use. If you're not familiar, that means that there are rules to this
game
listed in many very large and sometimes expensive game manuals, but always expensive, but homebrew is stuff we make up ourselves, which is another great thing about this game, is that there's a lot of stuff you can just make up. It's kind of the point. It's we're all making up a story as we go along. But this particular world has been cursed so that no one can read or write, which means, much like barbarians normally, everyone is illiterate. And right after this curse was laid upon the world, giant wars were fought over people trying to figure out who actually did it, whose fault it was. Many, many people died in these great wars, and after all the dust settled, basically all of the races kind of sequestered themselves, retreated to live amongst their own, and ever since then, there's been a sort of like intellectual post-apocalypse. There are small bands of people that, basically the idea is this is a world where the knowledge that one person possesses can only be passed on to another person by talking to them through storytelling, oral histories. It's going to be a big emphasis in this campaign. And so bards in this world, bards are a class of that are storytellers, entertainers, performers. I know a little bit about everything. Bards are sort of the Jedi, for lack of a better word, in this world. They wander the land, educating people, using magic granted by the gods to try to stem the tide of ignorance and keep people from forgetting about the history of the world and who they are and their place in it. So that's kind of the theme. Our 3 heroes are going to be embarking on an epic quest to try to end this dread curse that's been upon the land for hundreds of years. Probably, unless they decide to change their minds and make it worse. Again, absolutely their decision. I don't get to control their actions, just the world around them. And that's the basic formula for this little adventure. So that's the core concept of the world. Obviously, as with any good Dungeons and Dragons campaign, more details and exposition will be laid out as we get into the game, which we'll be doing here fairly shortly. But in the meantime, a couple extra details. I guess let's go ahead and introduce our characters and who's going to be starring in this campaign of ours. Who'd like to go first? Do you want to roll dice?
Not
I want
it.
to do this. Fantastic.
I'll
All
go.
right.
I don't care.
Beth
It's
is
fine.
going first. So
Yeah.
Beth, tell us about the character you're playing.
After they air high five? Okay, so I am playing a female wild elf sorcerer named Rilla Longshadow.
Rilla Longshadow.
Yeah.
So what's Rilla's deal? She's a sorceress?
She's a sorceress. She's an archer as well, and I'm kind of planning to lean really heavily on that one more than the sorcery.
Very cool.
I'm trying to remember what we've talked about with this character. It's been so long since we made it.
We've been prepping for this one for quite a long time.
We like preparation.
Yeah.
Preparation H.
So as far as Rilla's
Feels good on the whole.
as far as Rilla's connection to the narrative, Rilla is from the Springvale Forest, an ancient stronghold for the elven people in Meosha. It's an ancient old-growth forest where the wild elves live amongst the trees. And, so you are a sorceress, somebody with...
Which means I have innate magical powers because you can't be a wizard in this world.
You cannot be a wizard in this world, yeah.
Yeah.
One of the side effects of not being able to read and write is that you can't keep track of a spell book. So arcane spellcasting is kind of a rare thing. The whole enterprise of wizardry is kind of moot. So Rilla actually represents something that has become fairly rare, which is a person that has some understanding and mastery of arcane forces, which is cool. So what kind of gear are you rocking? I don't know how in depth we should go as far as like equipment and stats. There's going to be some nuts and bolts people out there that are really going to know exactly what we're
'cause
rocking.
That's where I am in podcasts. When I listen to D&D podcasts, I really like hearing the minutia.
Sure,
But we also play 3.5 and we're like number nerds.
that's true.
So
Well,
this might be...
fucking bring it. Who cares? What do you got?
All right.
We're explicit. We're technical. Get used to it.
We
Yeah.
also have a fetish with just knowing everything.
We do. We really, really do.
So,
Please continue.
for those who know, I plan on making Rilla an arcane archer long term. That is my goal.
That is a prestige class, a class that you can gain later in levels once you get all the prerequisites. We like to, but that's a pretty fucking dope aspiration.
Yeah. So Rilla has a masterwork longbow, and I also have the feet point blank shot, which means that I will do more damage with that when I'm within 30 feet of someone with my longbow.
Super cool.
So that's cool. And then I also have a longsword, which I don't really think I'm going to use much. It's kind of I'm out of spells. They're too close. Oh God, let's just slash at it
Sure.
and run.
She says that, but
We'll see. Beth does have a bit of a record for playing very violent, up close and personal melee fighters. So it's going to be very cool to see this archery build.
I typically play neutral or evil characters that just beat.
or just slowly
Everyone-
drift,
yeah, I
quickly
just-
drift into evil.
I have a tendency towards hack and slash and evil.
Yeah.
I'm playing a chaotic good character, so that's also going to be weird.
Yeah.
We'll see. I'm going to do my best to stay good in this one.
Well, I think we're all excited to see how that's going to go. So yeah, we've got
And then because I'm a sorcerer, I only have so many spells. Do you want me to list those, or leave that
we
for
can
later?
we can get into that once we start
Okay,
playing. That's
cool.
fine. We might also do an extra bit where we go to the fucking workshop and just hammer out the specs in great detail for anyone that cares greatly about the nuts and bolts approach
Okay.
to Dungeons and Dragons.
And
but,
I don't wear armor because I'm a sorcerer.
there you
so.
go. And then you also have a familiar. Is that correct?
That's right, I do. I have a cat, and his name is Rutherford B. Hayes. And
Yes, it is. Rutherford B. Hayes, the cat. Lovely. All right, so
we'll just call him Rutherford. But
Yeah.
his full name is Rutherford B. Hayes, just so everyone knows.
so that is Rilla Longshadow and her the sorceress and archer, and her familiar Rutherford B. Hayes, played by Beth. Who's next? Brian?
Oh, I should also point out
what's
that
up?
the cat is a Maine Coon cat, so he's gigantic.
It is a Maine Coon cat. It's a very large cat. I had to look up Maine Coon cats myself. Not a cat person necessarily. They're very large.
So big.
Very large cats.
Yes.
So that'll be fun.
Okay.
So yeah, it brings us to Brian. Brian, tell us about your character. What are you playing?
I am playing Hector the Gatekeeper. That's Hector with a K, because that's how you spell it.
It's important. It's an important distinction.
Hector the Gatekeeper, Keeper of the Gates, is a barbarian, a young barbarian from a mountain-based tribe known as the Gatekeeper clan, based in the mountain range called the Gates, and they have made themselves the go-to escorts for travelers through the mountains. And so Hector has spent all of his life meeting travelers from all over the world, including bards who told such grand stories, and that's all he's ever wanted is for bards to tell stories about him.
Very cool. Nice. I like a nice, upfront, simple aspiration.
Yeah.
It's very achievable. Hopefully, if you don't die terribly in a dungeon.
Kind of went for a bit of a classic hero archetype.
Sure.
'cause That's fun.
So what kind of gear are we rocking, Brian?
Hector, his primary weapon is a gigantic, ridiculous ass maul. He
So-
also has some throwing axes, because up there in the mountains, sometimes you can't get up close, so you got to throw shit at him.
Has
Awesome.
he competed in any competitions with said axes?
No, he
Damn.
lives in a mountain.
But lumberjacks throw axes.
They don't have contests in the mountain.
it.
He doesn't leave the mountains.
Brian,
Yeah.
don't don't count your chickens before they hatch, brother. Okay, you don't know what kind of narratives I got cooking. Don't.
He hasn't seen a contest.
Oh, it's just not true. But anyway,
These are things that the DM are supposed to tell me about my homeland.
well, I'm not trying to ambush you here, Brian. We're all on the same team. But all right, so you got a big ass two-handed hammer, a maul. You got some throwing axes, and what do barbarians do?
They hit things, and then they get mad, and then they hit things harder.
That would be with their rage ability. Is that correct?
Yes. 2
'Cause
times a day.
There might actually be some people listening to this that don't know all about Dungeons and
That's,
Dragons. So
Those
fair.
poor people.
Yeah,
They're going to be
barbarians are
pleasantly upset.
beefy fighters who, one of the big things of theirs is the ability to rage after being hit. They get very angry, they get stronger, they get a little bit beefier, and they hit harder. It's fun.
much fun. Cool. Do you have any extra sidekicks or animal companions or anything?
Yes, I do. I have a dog, which I bought with money. And
So-
he is my best friend and also my protector, and his name is Book. Because
Fantastic.
themes.
Yeah, that's great.
I can't wait for someone to throw
Another-
a book at something.
Another fun thing about barbarians is that they can't read.
Just naturally.
Just as a mechanic of the game, barbarians are automatically illiterate because they are savage primal warriors. So
in
that is
3.5, right?
in 3.5.
Yes.
Yes,
Okay,
yeah, in the version of D&D we play. And for future reference, if there's anyone out there that's confused as to what we're talking about, whenever we reference rules in this show, we're talking about 3.5 unless explicitly stated otherwise. So an important thing to mention is that Brian's pet dog is not a class feature. That's not something that he gets for being a barbarian, like Beth's character Rilla gets a familiar for being a sorceress. But Brian just Hector just bought a dog. Just has a dog that's well trained, and we'll see how that goes.
You don't buy a family member.
Oh, forgive me.
You do if you're rich.
You just said you spent gold on it.
Yes. But I wouldn't say that I bought it.
Okay.
I would say that destiny brought us together and some gold was required to make that happen.
Fantastic. Well, that's a beautiful philosophy, and I can't wait to see how that plays out in the game. I'm really excited. And last but not
Please
least,
don't kill my dog.
don't make me have to kill your dog, Brian.
Oh, he's gonna stick it on some poor guy, and then it's just gonna die. Just boop, dead.
He's gonna
No
bite
dog.
someone with poison skin. Like people have. All right, Parker.
That
What
guy
are
had rabies. Damn.
what are you bringing to the table here?
Zurabak, the druid, half orc. He lives in a swamp.
All right, and what are druids all about, Parker? Tell us all about it.
Well, nature.
I do.
That
Druids do nature.
do a whole lot of nature.
Okay.
They got nature magic, nature pets. They can turn into nature pets too.
Oh, that's fantastic. So there's a lot of connection with the wilderness and the wild places. You get to shape change into animals at some point. And any other bonuses or benefits? Like your animal companion?
Yeah. Nature pets. That was covered.
Okay, so Parker also gets his character gets an animal friend, technically called an animal companion, which is something druids get. The difference between animal companions the druids get and familiars that sorcerers get is that animal companions are usually a bit buffer, bigger. They can be an ally on the battlefield, whereas familiars are more like
Ooh, squishy target.
familiars are like spies. They can be used subtly to gather information and help channel your spells, but they're not like frontline fighters. And what is your animal companion?
Snake.
A snake, because you're from the swamps.
Yep.
Fantastic. And does your snake have a name?
Snake.
Snake. Fantastic. You don't. Why fuck around with it? That's.
What's your intelligence, by the by?
High enough.
I'm looking. He's got a 12, which
Okay.
isn't bad.
Okay.
It's not bad.
He's not the stupidest in the party.
Not the stupidest in the party. I'm guessing.
I'm not the stupidest in the party
oh, God,
either.
I'm the stupidest in the party.
Oh
okay.
God, I'm the
Yes.
smartest in the party.
Holy shit. Wait, do we just find out that the sorceress has the lowest intelligence score?
Yes.
Well, that's going to be very interesting to see how that plays out. All right.
I'm very pretty and also dexterous, so there's that.
All right. So those are the
The
characters we're
naive
playing.
hillbilly.
Wait. I got a raft.
I'm sorry,
and
the
a
naive
pole.
mountain billy is smarter than the sorceress.
Yes.
Cool.
Well, the sorceress's power comes from her
Charisma.
her sense of presence, her inner
Charisma.
strength and light. Not through nerdy book
Yeah,
learning.
but the stat is called charisma.
Yes,
You
it's
can
called
you
charisma.
can flower it up all you want.
Okay.
It's called charisma. It's
Well,
the charisma
that's what the
stat.
stat wants you to do.
That's
Yeah.
fair.
Don't fall into it, man. If you have never played Dungeons and Dragons before, think of this show as sort of a book on tape mixed with improv theater. This is gonna be us making up a story at this table using dice to sort of intimate like randomization and stuff. If you want to hit somebody, if you want to persuade somebody, if you want to steal something from somebody, you have to roll a dice to do that. I'll be creating scenarios that the players will have to go through. And if you are a hardcore min-maxing murder hobo listening to this campaign, there will be plenty of opportunity for us to take a deep dive into the nuts and bolts of the characters that the players have made, of their strengths, weaknesses, specialties, of what I'm doing behind the scenes and making the world and different things like that. We'll probably have a couple extras tacked on to every episode where we get into the hardcore rule stuff. Yeah, so I guess that's good for an intro. I guess let's just do the damn thing. We're going to start off with a little prologue. And each of our adventurers is going to be introed and start this lovely campaign.